Alright, well, it looks like because of my audio somehow got messed up, I gotta re-record all my audio. So with that being said, I will just do that and play through what happened here on my daily. Um, so anyways, the truth of the matter here was that I ended up winning or losing the die roll. So I lost the die roll. It was my round one opener. I had to mull this because I didn't have the lands that I needed to. It may have been keepable if I had, since I was on the draw, not the play. If I had more than one land that I could use, or I'm sorry, more than one creature that I could use. But I ended up having to mull to basically Oblivion. Now this is a little weird. I do kind of a thing that I don't know if most people do, but when I recognize like from here on I'm not going to win, there's a fair chance when you mull to 4 that you can win game 1, maybe, if it was like a deck that was just awful against me. But I wasn't sure of that. I drew myself another land here, which is probably painting bad signs. This guy's can put out like big 3 convert mana cost things. So what I ended up doing was I ended up putting out a little bit of a trick. I said, okay, I'm gonna put out a Windswept Heath. He doesn't necessarily know what that is. There's a bunch of decks in the format that run Windswept Heath right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. It's not gonna kill me not to. Likewise, if I end up putting out the other Windswept Heath and then cracked it, I could still stay in the game. Because I can cast Tarmogoyf and I can cast Qasali Pridemage, but I actually had a weird idea, which was I don't know what this deck is. The Qasali Pridemage threw me off a little bit. I would think it was like Pod, even though Pod's not in the format anymore, and I would think it could be Hate Bears. So I wasn't necessarily sure what the deck was. I had a very good inclination that it was a little kid junk. So I thought that I actually have very similar cards to what this guy's got. So if I break my mana for more or less the same thing that he's doing, I get like a Temple Garden, and then I get a forest or plains. I could cast the Qasali Pridemage and make this guy think that maybe I'm like mana screwed. That's all I could cast. If he is in fact little kid junk, then by doing this, what I'm doing is I am basically saying I'm mana screwed. I don't have a dork. I can't get up to 3 converted mana cost. He would assume that I'm little kid junk, and that's very specific here. I want him to think that I'm little kid junk, because if he thinks I'm little kid, then he's gonna sideboard wrong against me. Meanwhile, I know exactly what he is. So that's the idea here, and it actually ended up working out in my favor. I'm just gonna zoom through here because I told you what I did. I ended up breaking it for this way. I can still get I drew a fetch land, which means that I can still get I could still end up getting the what do you call it, red sources if I needed it, but it was very likely that if he casted any 3 converted mana cost creature that I was not going to be able to win this game. He ends up doing his attacks, he goes through. I do end up drawing a path later on that proves that this might have been a wrong decision. And I could have pathed and probably still kept up the fact that I'm little kid. But, I ended up not doing that and just saying, like, alright, I've got the information that I need. I don't need to waste my time any longer. I don't want to waste my play clock either. I let him have his turn. If he was going to do a Thoughtseize at any point in time, this is when I was 100% assured that it was going to be a little kid variant. And I was just going ahead and concede the game because I don't want to waste any more of my time. If he Thoughtseize me, I would have conceded it right away because I didn't want him to know. As such, when I do my sideboarding, I actually am going to sideboard a little bit differently than I would from normal junk. Little Kid Junk and Junk, the rock deck, are 2 very different decks. They don't seem like it since they use a lot of the same stuff, but they are actually, I would consider different decks. Main reason is because I actually think Little Kid Junk is the equivalent of Big Zoo. I think it's sort of almost the same deck. As you can see, what I'm doing here right now is pulling out cards that I think would be good against this matchup. I had to throw my sideboard together a little bit, like I said earlier, because I didn't have the Dramaca's Command. So I opted to put together stuff that I knew would work, and I had a vague idea of how I was going to sideboard, but I didn't have a specific game plan like I did for when I had Cockatrice and I was testing. I knew that the volcanic fallout would kill his dorks and a lot of his smaller stuffs. I knew the Vines of Ast would be good because he's going to probably bring in slaughter packs or paths against me, and I knew the rending volleys were going to be good because they kill pretty much everything in his deck with the exception of Rhino. And if I saw a Rhino, it's either path or go home. But Rending Volley would do a lot of work for me anyways. I end up siding out the Lightning Helix because, well, Rending Volley is basically a better version of it. I end up siding out my Kitchen Finks because this is not necessarily a grindy match, so I don't need the Kitchen Finks. I'd rather be the beatdown, and Kitchen Finks is alright at beating down, but not the best at beating down. And I end up siding out some lightning bolts. And my reasoning for siding out the lightning bolts was actually a pretty simple one. Vines of Vast would do what in this matchup that lightning bolt does not. Vines of Vast would kill things if I needed to use it as a basically removal spell, attack and get it blocked. And other than that, Vines of Vast would also save me from like an early removal spell, like an Abrupt Decay or something, and allow me to continue to beat down, especially if he just, starts with Mana Dorks. I have that very powerful early game. I want to continue it as long as I can. I opt to keep the hand that I've got, because it's powerful enough. I can still cast Qasali Pride Mages. I've got Knight of the Reliquary who breaks this matchup way open, because nothing in his deck can stand Knight's power. Knight's Wrath! And I end up doing this as my my choiceage of even though I know that I'm going to be a little mana screwed. I've got 2 converted mana costs, but I've got 2 1/1s that aren't so great. I end up getting this Fallout, which would be excellent if I ever got the chance to use it. I don't. But this is good enough in the fact that I've got a very, very, very aggressive start. I make a mistake here if I remember correctly. I don't, because I was actually talking to the audio and forgot that I needed to cast Qasali Pride Mage early, and I lose 1 damage. And I'm like saying jokingly, going like, "Oh man, if I lose this game and he's at 1 life, I'm gonna hate myself." So yeah, that was totally my fault, and don't do that. Remember, sometimes I cast Qasali Pride Mage. I do sometimes cast Qasali Pride Mage. Second main phase, like against Twin, I'll often do it, and that's because I want to bait removal and have the removal used on my Wild Noctil, where Qasali Pride Mage can open the matchup entirely. So I opt to do that here. Moving ahead, he actually gets mana screwed here, which is not good for him, especially since I'm so fast. I draw myself a Wild Noctil who would do 1 more damage than the Qasali Pride Mage, so I opt to attack them both out here rather than cast the Pride Mage and just have the Exalted triggers do the work that the Qasali Pride Mage would do. Plus, he has Slaughter Pact mana open, so he can Slaughter Pact it, and my things would be all for naught. He's already looking pretty bad here, though. I had a conversation with this guy afterwards. He definitely did sideboard incorrectly this game. He was kind of pissed at me because I made it look like I was the same deck as him, and then then I immediately put out a Wild Noctil, and he's got to go turn back on his heels and be like, I didn't sideboard properly. He was siding in things that would help him win a grindy game, not a fast game. And he ends up putting out this Luxodon Smiter. I go well, that kind of sucks, and then I immediately draw a Rending Volley, and I'm like, well, that sucks a lot less now. With that guy out of the way, I'm going to be hitting for a ton of damage, even if he Slaughter Packs. And it's going to get to the point where, at any point if I cast Knight of the Reliquary, the game's probably over. I can get a Kessing Overthrown to pump if I need to. Also, if I draw a land at any point in time, I also have Volcanic Fallout and just win the game. So skip ahead here. He ends up putting out some Lingering Souls, and Lingering Souls is all right. it's gonna block my guys. You know, I didn't draw a land, so I didn't win off right away off of like the volcanic fallout. And I don't necessarily want to cast volcanic fallout if I can help it, because I don't want to show him what cards I sided in against him. And I just go for the attack and go like, there's got to be like a slaughter pact or something happening here. Like this. I was weirded out because like, why would it get delayed like this? But he plays it correctly. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. If you're got the slaughter pact, is to set it up that maybe I like clan rampage or something crazy on the wild Noctel. I got the win. I know that he's got to tap out pretty much completely. Unless he has a basic land, he can't do anything. And even if he has a basic land, he would only be able to put like a mana dork out maybe and block, which is whatever. My thought process here was just like, whatever, this is fine. You can't even do anything, so I'm just gonna go ahead and continue to beat down. I wasn't falling for any tricks at any point, I should say. Later on, we go on to here. I open up a hand that I keep. And I'm a little weirded by it. I'm just saying, by this hand, like I've got early aggression, so I can at least get 4 points of damage in with the wild or with the create. If I draw anything else, that's cool. But I've got a turn 1 play and I've got a turn 3 play, and Collected Company is stupidly good. I was already well aware that Collected Company is stupidly good. But when I draw my wild Noctowl, wild Noctowl, I am very happy because I'm sure I've got at least like 3 to 6 points of damage, and I can still put out a Curd Ape too. I opt to take the damage here, and just because it'll mess up my plan if I don't take the damage here and don't leave the path to exile mana open. Look, I'm the beatdown, and I'm well aware I'm the beatdown, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue to beat down and path at the end of his turn. I've got no reason to save my life. I'm going to be doing more damage in the end to him anyways. Something to note about Little Kid, they're really greedy in terms of mana. Therefore, mana color and mana cost. So seeing them have to put a turn 2 bird out there in order to function is not necessarily is not a thing that's unknown. You can also bolt stuff like that and keep them off a turn if you're an aggro deck like we are here. Whatever he's gonna cast, there's a 90% chance I'm just gonna path it. And he ends up doing the Luxon Spider, which we're just going to immediately path. We're not even letting that thing stick around. My reasoning's simple. I got 5 damage here that I can do with this, and potentially another 5 damage. I've got mana that I can grab more mana with Knight of the Reliquary. I can get a Keswick Wolf Run if I need to trample over like tokens. Aside from that, Collected Company is like broken. I can get basics, which is why I grabbed the basic planes there, just to make him think maybe that I was in fact getting like a Blood Moon ready for him or something. That's not something that I want to do. I can also keep my life total a little bit afloat. I end up getting a shock land here because I'm not trying to feign the Blood Moon all that much. But my reasoning specifically for that Stomping Ground I can remember is that it is excessed Stomping Ground. I'm going to maybe sacrifice that Stomping Ground for a Keswick Wolf Run, and I'd rather kill a Stomping Ground rather than a Temple Guard in this situation, just because Stomping Ground would be a better trade. Next turn, I have to think whether or not I'm going to cast the Collected Community right like then and there. Like it's very possible that I can do it at end of turn. And I actually go into my thing here trying to figure out like, well, what am I getting with the Collected Community? And I remember, no, I didn't side any creatures, and in fact I sided some creatures out, so I had an 80% hit for 2 creatures rather than 85, which I did pre-board. 80% 85% for hitting 2 creatures, and about 100% chance of hitting at least 1 creature. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's probably closer to like 99.9999% chance to hit 1 creature off the collected community. It still would put 1 more creature on the battlefield than not. With shaving down some lands to do it too, with these fetch lands, and cracking Knight to do more, it's a fair chance that I could even hit a higher percentage chance off the collected community. But yeah, I could if I needed to ramp into the collected community with the Knight of the Reliquary. For anyone who's not aware, Knight can be used as a very, very expensive mana dork for a turn until you run out of, lands. But there are times in a stall where I'll need to do something a little higher mana cost, and I'll use, instead of attacking with Knight of the Reliquary, I'll use it to ramp up 1 mana, or I'll use it to just simply to what do you call it, to clear my deck out of lands, so that way I don't draw blanks. So I think about it here, and I think I probably can hit things off of collected community that's better than Tarmogoyf. I also have the mana to cast it and attack with Knight. I figure the only thing that he could do here is he can Slaughter Pact or he can Path to Exile. If he has those 2 cards in hand, he's got 5 cards, so there's a fair chance. If he's got any of those 2 cards in hand, Slaughter Pact being, I think, 2 of in these decks generally, and the Afterboard, and Path being a 4 of, but he may or may not have it. Then I maybe shouldn't have attacked with Knight, because I could get a Keswick Wolf run, and it would be like he passed something that wasn't that great. But I end up attacking with it because I'm like, whatever. If he blocks something, it'll force him to get rid of some of these tokens. I can still get a Keswick Wolf run at some point in time. I ended up thinking that was fine, and I just decided to let it go. There's no reason to. The only time you'd ever really do a collected community prior to attacking is if you only had 1 creature out there, or you were planning on only attacking with 1 creature, so that way you can get a Qasali Pride Mage or a Noble Hierarch. In this case, it would only be a Qasali Pride Mage out, so that you can get Exalted triggers. Or if you have like a Thalia in the deck and you want to make it so that his like removal is going to cost more mana, or if like you have a Voice of Resurgence or something. Here I'm casting Voice of Resurgence in response to him casting this, so that way he doesn't get a stupid token. I end up getting a Pride Mage, a Wild Noctowl, and a Knight. Now the question is whether I take the Wild Noctowl or the Pride Mage. I end up taking just the Noctowl because I'm saying, like, look, I'm already pretty ahead on the beatdown plan. Might as well keep it going. He's gonna bring back some tokens, and that's fine. But I've got Knight now, and I've got a Tarmogoyf in my hand. I'm just gonna put out as much aggression as humanly possible. One last thing to note about the collected community. Sometimes I've done it main phase when I've had things like Aven Mind Sensor or Hushwing Grift in my hand, and the opponent had to counter spells. Cool, so I end up drawing a Path to Exile. Cool, I like Path to Exile. Path to Exile gets rid of problem creatures like Finks and Voice of Resurgence. Oh, look, there's a Voice of Resurgence out here. So I'm thinking about whether or not I want to hold this path for something else, but then I end up saying, like, nope, it's got to go to this Voice. He's got a lot less cards in hand than prior. If he had removal, he probably would have used it instead of casting the Voices. Well, Voices make more sense when you realize that you can put 1/1 counters on there. At any rate, my job is to beat down at this point. And I again considered holding back the Knight, but I figure I'd rather get 5 points of damage in over 2 points of damage. It's the difference between him being at 7 and him being at 10. And at any point in time, if I draw, like, Burn, he's dead. If I draw, like, just casting the Tarmogoyf, even if he gets rid of my Knight, he's still got a pretty uphill battle to fight here. He doesn't have any tokens that he can cast. Maybe I want to say 2 creatures, 3 creatures tops, and even then it'd be like dorks, and he'd only be prolonging the inevitable. Um, so that's my specific reasoning here. Now he does have 2 cards in hand, and he's going to take a long time to think about this. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip forward. He does end up taking a long time thinking about what he needs to do. I end up cracking my land here, and I basically came up with 2 scenarios. Scenario number 1, I attack with everything, I win. If he doesn't have any form of like disruption, but he's got open mana. He's got a bird that can block and path something at the same time. I got another Knight of the Reliquary in my hand, which means that I can replace this Knight of the Reliquary if it dies. So I have to make some decisions, but I end up choosing to go with a Keswick Wolf Run, and my reason is very, very, very specific, as you'll see in a second. I have enough damage on the board to win, point blank. He, is going to have to crack things and do what he needs to do, and his life is already so low that he needs to more or less get rid of every creature that's attacking this turn. Or if not get rid of, in short of get rid of it, stop it from being able to hurt him. He can end up blocking if he with his mana land, which is what he does. He doesn't have the removal, so he attacks, he blocks with his mana land. And I'm gonna let that go. And he'll probably block, and I'll have 2 damage going through. That's probably enough to I could just Keswick Wolf Run over him completely. If I throw it all on a problem creature, like if I could say, all right, I need to put it all on this this Kurdape, but I've recognized the ability that he still could have a path, and he still has 2 open mana. So it's not like he can't Abrupt Decay or something. So it would be safer for me to hold back my Knight and get the my other option, get the Keswick Wolf Run in response. Now Keswick Wolf Run is going to make my threats, maybe not this turn, but next turn, become a game-winning creature no matter what. No matter what. So it's the safer route. Instead of winning in 1 turn, I'm looking at winning in 2 turns. I can also, doing the math here, I can Keswick Wolf Run for just enough to win. If I tap everything and leave 2 mana open. What the 2 mana is, I don't know. I don't have to show him what's in my hand. But if I do that, I can still Keswick Wolf Run enough to kill his, doing the math, to kill his Stirring Vastwood, and trample over 1 damage, plus the 2 damage off the Tarmogoyf, plus the 2 damage. I'm sorry, with 3 damage off the Tarmogoyf, plus the 2 damage off the the Kurdape. That's 5 damage plus the 1. That's 6, which would be Xaxes to kill him. So he'd have to, and the reason why I did it on the one that's being blocked by the Stirring Wildwood rather than the one that's like a Tarmogoyf or something that's completely open right now is because that Wild Noctowl is going to die no matter what I do. But I can take out the Stirring Vastwood with it and potentially win the game. And if he paths or Abrupt Decays something, he's going to have to Abrupt Decay the Wild Noctowl to save his blocker, aka his Stirring Vastwood, and I would still get in for 5 damage, meaning that anytime if I drew a bolt, he's dead. It's not enough for me to cast my my Knight of the Reliquary, but he doesn't need to know that, you know. And also, my Knight of the Reliquary is still safe back there. My Knight of the Reliquary can very easily now attack and trample. So it doesn't need to hold back anymore. It can just attack, and there's no way that he can deal with this. He's gonna draw and see that he can at most block a couple creatures and then die from not even needing me to trample over. He'll just die straight up. But I can trample over for safety. Takes a while to think about it, and that's it. He says good games and that it was tight. So here we win the die roll, which is where we want to be at. We go ahead and we open up a hand that is... This Keswick Wolf Run is going to be a continual thing popping up, just ruining my hand. It's nothing I can really do about it. I mean, it is 20, you know, like, I run 20 lands, 19 of them give me colored sources, and one of them, the odds are 1 out of 20, which is not good odds that this Keswick Wolf Run's going to keep popping in my hand. But it does. But I figure I can, I can still play around this. I've got a red mana. That means I can cast Lightning Bolt. It means I can cast my Curd Ape. If I draw a red source at any point in time, I'm still fine. I can still cast a turn 2, for example, Bolt. And I end up getting bolted out here, and so I'm like thinking, all right, I guess I'm against a red deck wins. I didn't want to be a red deck wins against this this early on in the format, but it would make sense because red deck wins either goes like 2-2 or 3-1 or 1-3. It's very rarely it's a 4. Very rarely it's a 4-0. As soon as I see that he's casted the Faithless Looting, I'm like, I know he's on some kind of dredge, and when I see this Vulcanalian Hellion, I gotta like mouse my hand, I gotta mouse over it for a while because I'm like, what is this card? I haven't ever seen this card. It's just basically a really bad burn spell, is what it is. I suppose it's okay if your life total's like nothing, which hopefully it is later on. I draw myself a collected community, which. I don't know if I use it this game. It ends up being a little better, I think, later in the next game. But I think I might have enough aggression that I can pull this win off. I'm very weirded out by this matchup. I gotta be honest with you. I don't know what it is. It's got black, it's got red, it's doing things like Shrink Maw. It's obviously using the graveyard as some kind of fuel eventually. It's got a demigod I could already see. So maybe it's like some kind of... I've seen demigod, like, Vengevine decks before, like these weird explosive hasty decks that just went out of nowhere. So I gotta be careful of it. I end up drawing a land, though, and hey, and that means I can cast a creature. So, that's perfectly fine with me. I feel like I'm gonna die probably in one big huge blaze if I do, so I might as well be greedy. I also don't think there's Blood Moon's main, although that could have been totally wrong. But even if there was Blood Moon mains, I got Solid Pride Mage out here to stop that Blood Moon main. And if I untap, I have a Path to Exile to get myself a basic if I need to. So he ends up thought seizing me. I go, sure. I think about it for a little while, and I say the smart move is probably getting rid of my Tarkus Command because it's a 2 mana 4 damage spell currently. I mean, Bolt is just a 1 mana 3 damage spell, and Path is maybe probably not going to be relevant because I'm going to be tapped out by the time you do this crazy hasty explosion on me, and I can't cast Collected Company unless I magically draw something. He ends up Cooligan commanding me, which cool. I like that card a lot. I think that Jamaka's Command and Atarka's Command are the only playable commands. And I think Cooligan's Command is actually really good in a deck like a tempo deck or in a more mid-ranger deck like Jund. Actually, I actually think it would be very good in Jund. I end up getting 4 mana, which is fantastic. I don't have to use it right away. He can hard cast Shrink Maw or something, and I can just cast in response to it. He ends up Faithless Looting. I guess he's got to find an extra land, or he's got to find some answer. The truth is, this collected community is going to give me some creatures that I can run. I have to separate his stuff out here because now I'm having confusion as to what's getting tossed and what's being kept. The big thing here is that I can put aggression out. Is really what I'm trying to do. This guy's at 16 life, so if I can manage to get like even 1 3 Seer, I can probably do a lot of damage. I end up getting Noctel and a Tarmogoyf. I could have gotten Pride Mage. I thought about Pride Mage if I was worried about Blood Moon, but I wasn't super worried about Blood Moon, especially after having a path open, and having that bolt in my hand means I can lower his life down pretty dramatically. I end up drawing a Plains here, so like now I'm suddenly not worried at all. And I figure he's tapped out. The chances of him being able to kill a Tarmogoyf with a single open mana with 1 card left in hand is slim to none. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put all my eggs in one basket. I got no reason not to. It's pretty much the probability of me getting blown out by this is so low that it's worth it. I very rarely do this, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pump the crap out of him. It's only gonna be for 2 extra damage, but that 2 extra damage might add up, especially if he doesn't have anything worth mentioning. I think he ended up bringing a creature back, and I remember that creature was in fact a Shrink Maw, which is what he casts here. And I knew that, so I might as well tap out and get my use of Tarmogoyf right now, rather than later. Now he's at 7, and I've got an aggressive hand here. I can do 6 damage, so I can probably just path this thing that would eat my creature. He's tapped out. Put out a knight. I'd probably still bolt if I really wanted to. And put him down to 1 life, facing down a Knight of the Reliquary, while also having, being at 1 life, facing a Knight of the Reliquary, facing a Wild Noctil. He's got 2 cards in hands to deal with all of that stuff. Not like a Keswick Wolf Run to the finish. But he's not going to win this one. That's basically what I'm thinking. Suddenly, it went from, like, I don't know what this deck is, to, like, well, I don't think this deck's any good. He must have taken someone by surprise round 1 and beat them, or maybe it was a no-show. I have no clue, but this is not necessarily... it's an experimental deck where it can win by being rogue. It might be able to win just by winning, and it also might not be able to win point blank. So to zoom through, because it's not really worth mentioning too much, he just finishes off here. I choose to end up taking out 1 Lightning Helix, and I bring in, I believe, what do I bring in here? Gotta look real quick. I bring in 2 Vines of Vastwood because I know he's got like targeted removal, like for example Shrink Ball. So I take out 1 Lightning Helix, and I believe I take out I think I take out a Kitchen Finks as well. If I remember correctly, I drag that. No, I just take out 2 Lightning Helixes because they're not super useful here. They're not going to kill any of his dudes. And Vines of Vastwood is basically the same mana as a Lightning Helix. It's just does more damage if I need to use it as a quote-unquote burn spell. It also does it also can save from like a Shrink Ball. So yeah, I see the Thoughtseize. I'm kind of like sad because I kept a hand that I kept the hand specifically because of Collected Community. I knew I was a turn like 1 match up, so I figure, it's not the worst thing in the world if I get to test this Collected Command, see how good it is. It ends up being super good in this game. I'm not going to spoil it, but it ends up being really important. Past the turn, I don't got anything to do. I've got this Vines of Vastwood that just sits in my hand for a while. I knew he was going to discard the Tarmogoyf because it's what the aggression would be. He's going to spend some time fixing his hand with card filtering. I end up drawing a Wild Noctil, which is good. I mean, Wild Noctil's an aggression, And I'm going to cast this Wild Noctil. Now I've got things I can do. Not only can I cast this Wild Noctil, which was a great draw, I'm also playing around Blood Moon right here by getting the basic. I don't need to get a Plains just yet. I don't need to do it, so I won't do it. And boom, there's the Blood Moon. I figured, I mean, you're a red-black deck that has like a ton of basics in it. Why wouldn't you Blood Moon me? And I'm like thinking that kind of stinks. I still got a 2/2 though, at least. I still can save my my Wild Noctil at the end of the day if he tries to bolt it, so I can at least have some aggression on the board. We'll see where this leads to. He's at 14. I've got the mana now to Collected Community. We'll see what I can do with it. He ends up casting this thing, and I'm thinking about saving it right here. I can consider saving it, but I end up saying like, I'd rather, if I Collected Community and I have like an extra open mana open or something, I'd rather be able to do some stuff with it. Maybe protect another one of my creatures. I don't know. I end up thinking that the Vines of Vastwood might be more worth it later on. I'm also weirded out because I don't really know what that card is. So we'll end of turns. We'll end of turns the Collected Community. That's where I'm all my hopes and prayers are on right now. And I'm not even necessarily trying to get a Qasali Pride Mage to blow it up. I'm just thinking like, man, I should Collected Community so that way I can just get some beaters. Like if I got 2 Knight of the Reliquaries, I could still probably kill him off of it, even with Blood Moon just being out. Just Collected Community turns out can be cast around Blood Moon, and that's actually really important. So he's looking around for something that he can do. I end up collecting community, and what I end up finding here is great. I find a Pride Mage and a Kitchen Finks. Kitchen Finks life gain's not really relevant, but it does. It's a 3 damage beater, so it's got Noctowl power. And I'll lose the rest of it. This will allow me to swing for 5, drop him down to 7, and then open my mana back open. Plus, I can save my Kusali Pride Mage with a Vines if I need to during this. So I opt to do that, and what ends up happening, if I can remember correctly, is I blow him up with a fetch land that I know I'm not going to use. I fetch for a basic Plains, so that way I still have the ability to Path to Exile. I can still cast things. My Wild Noctowl is still a 3/3. I'm considering what I need to cast, whether I need to cast the Luxodon Smiter, or whether I need to cast the Wild Noctowl and have mana open up to save one of them. I end up choosing to just go for the Luxodon Smiter. It's better. It's more mana efficient. I can still kill the person. A bolt won't kill it. So it'd have to be something like a Shrink Maw. I can still kill him off of swinging in with I can still pump with Vines of Vastwood if I want on top of killing him with my wild or my Finks. So I think it's just a better play just to blow it up and cast my my Luxodon Smiter. So I've got lots of outs here. I've got burn damage I can do off of this Vines of Vastwood. I got burn damage that I can do off of this Lightning Bolt. I can path something if I need to, and I've also got backup damage in the form of Wild Noctowl. So he ends up dealing 1 damage to himself to be able to fully cast Shrink Maw, which means I don't even need to worry about trying to Vines of Vastwood. There's just several different ways I could kill this guy. The way I opt to do it is the conservative way. I path his Shrink Maw and swing in, bank him, go down to 3, and then bolt him. But yeah, there's like a million different ways that I could have done that. I can path here. If somehow he had Slaughter Pact or something, then I could find Zavastwood in response and then still bolt him and have him be like way dead. So that collected community basically won me the game.